Hi, Alan Stratton from Woodturning. A short time ago I made this offset slat bowl. It was an interesting experience, one that I do not want to repeat. However, I do like the design, I do like the style, and I wanted to make a bigger one. But I thought there had to be a better way, because in this one I just had slats closed together but then glued to a top waist block and a bottom waist block. The problem was these were too loose and they tended to come apart at the most inopportune time. So I decided there had to be a better way. I decided to experiment and figure out how to do it. This time with double stick tape between the slats. That's the key difference between it. But as you'll see in this video, that worked too well. The slats were terribly hard to get apart. So while this one is of the same style and worked out still quite nice, there are signs of damage on here that I'd prefer to avoid. So there must still be a better way. I hope to explore and find out what that way is. Meanwhile, I'll show you how not to make another offset slat bowl.
To start, I milled out the slats similar to last time, just a little bit wider and longer since I want a slightly larger bowl. Last time the slats seemed to be too loose. This time I'm using double stick tape between each slat. Then gluing a sanded piece of OSB to the top of all the slats. For the bottom, I'm gluing another piece of OSB, however, I am using a paper joint this time to be sure it comes apart when I need it to. Then let the glue cure thoroughly. Now the glue has dried. I'm pressing the block to a faceplate so I can mark the perimeter before a quick trip to the bandsaw. Now I can mount my block to a faceplate with double stick tape. Now I'm carefully rounding off the block. Then, for safety's sake, I'm adding a band clamp around the lip just in case the double stick tape does not hold. Then on to actually forming the exterior of the bowl. This block is larger than last time, so I want to try more of a brim where the band clamp is. Since the edges of the pieces are not glued together, they tend to splinter more. Shear scraping with my gouge cleans up the cut. Actually, a small piece of the outer slat does break and fly off. I've cut away the portion that had the double stick tape. I have to remove the band clamp, apply tape to the next slat before putting the upper portion of the slat back in place. I did not try to put the other part of the slat in. I figure I can cut it away with the exterior shaping. When the shape is acceptable, I'll sand the exterior starting with 80 grit to refine the shape since I had too much splintering. Since the wood is different densities, I'll keep the lathe speed fast. The speed makes for hot hands while sanding. With sanding complete, I'm applying lacquer for a finish now. This will at least seal the edges for when I glue up. Before I take it apart, I'm cleaning up the bottom. I need a good flat to help the glue up. Now to take it apart. I quickly regret using the double stick tape. Except for the one slat where the tape was cut away, the slats are very stubborn. The OSB has no problem separating at the paper joint, but the slats with double stick tape are hanging on very tight. I'm trying everything I can to separate them. So much for the double stick tape idea. Yes, it holds, but no, it holds on too strongly. Sounds like the paper joints are the way to go. Now to reassemble and glue all those slats together. Last time I was worried about messing up the order. This time, after eyeballing the shape, I'm using masking tape to mark the order and position. Then glue them together with white glue and cleaning up the exposed offset. There's why I would not glue it all up all at once. Now, to assure a good hold, I'm gluing the blank to a wood faceplate. I'll let the glue harden at least overnight. Now that the wood is safely and securely glued together, hollowing is a lot like any other bowl with several major exceptions. First, the rim is not solid. For safety's sake, I cannot let my hands go beyond the tool rest. I imagine the jagged edge hitting my hands, and I definitely do not want that to happen. Another is that as I turn, I have to leave the bowl sides thicker, at least visually, because as the wood rotates, it appears thicker than it really is. I have to stop the lathe to be sure of the wall thickness. Also, since the rim is not solid, it can easily splinter. I have to take very light cuts and feel my way to the outer edge. I tend to let the edge hit the gouge as I move away from center. Once it stops hitting, I'm at the outer edge, and I can rotate the gouge to start a light cut. I'm finishing up with a large bowl scraper. I sanded this bowl at high speed to try to minimize oversanding the softer walnut, then applied lacquer to the interior. Then carefully part off the bowl through the pine surface of the faceplate. I relieve the cut in the pine, then carefully cut a slight hollow into the bowl's wood. I'm counting on the pine to shear off. I stop a couple of times to test before the bowl breaks off the faceplate through the last 3/4 inch of pine. Then mount a sanding pad in the headstock and sand off the remaining nub and make the bottom slightly concave. I'm signing the bowl with my pyrography setup with a ball tip. I always sand a bit more after burning to remove scorch marks. Then I'm taking some time with fine sandpaper to relieve any sharp edges on the slats. Now for the final coat of lacquer before buffing the bowl. In summary, I do not recommend this process for this type of turning. In the first process, the slats were separated too easily. In this process, the double stick tape held on too tightly. I did some damage to the slats while trying to separate them. I like the way the bowl looks, but not the process. I may have to relent and use paper joints between the slats. That's it for this bowl. Please give this video a thumbs up, subscribe on my website, and tell your friends. Please wear your full face shield. Yes, I'm nagging, but you will thank me later. I'm Alan Stratton from As Wood Turns. Every week I make a new wood turning video, so come on back next week.